Did you know that in Victorian state schools there's something called special religious instruction? It's compulsory unless parents opt out their children, and nothing else relating to the core curriculum can be taught to those children who are opted out for that half hour. Now, in most schools, this instruction in Victoria now in state schools is given by some poorly trained evangelical Christians, not qualified teachers, whose admitted aim is to convert children to their version of Christianity, despite allegedly not being allowed to proselytize. They most definitely do. And this is all done by law. Now, many parents either don't know about this or don't know what to do about it. My next guest does. His name is Scott Hedges. Welcome to the programme, Scott.
Thanks for having me, Doug. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Now, first of all, explain to us a bit about this special religious instruction. What law does this operate under?
The schools are organized under something called the Education Act. The Education Act is started in 1872, and it invoked several principles that would frame and define public education. And one of those principles was that education would be secular or religiously neutral.
Yeah.
The issue before us today is that in 1950, a group of clerical activists got together and pushed through an exception to the principles of public education. And that exception exists till this day.
And that exception is what allows this special religious education to take place.
The law literally says education in Victoria's government state schools will be secular except as provided in this one section. And what happens is it essentially conveys a portion of the school day to the churches in Victoria.
Okay, now the schools don't do this religious instruction. They can't do this religious instruction themselves, as I understand it. They have to have someone else come in.
That's right. The teachers have always refused to instruct children in religion.
And it doesn't have to be Christianity, does it? It can be any religion.
It was originally designed specifically to Christianize the schools, and it hadn't thought this through. But today there are other religious groups recognized and officially sanctioned under this law.
But the one that seems to have the most people into Victorian state schools is Access Ministries.
Oh, that's right.
And they claim they don't proselytize.
Yeah, they do say that all the time, although the curriculum that they present is explicitly written to proselytize.
And we saw a speech given by Yvonne.
So CEO of the parachurch, Access is made up of 12 Protestant churches, gave a speech in 2008 where she, I think to her regret now, clearly articulated her strategic intentions.
Because she talks about making disciples and then those disciples making more disciples, and if that's not trying to convert people or whatever, I don't know what is, really.
Well, it is. The managers and directors of this organization subscribe to really what it was started as a movement by Billy Graham.
So we're talking about an evangelical movement.
It is evangelical.
Yes. So, okay, they've got an avowed agenda to proselytize, even though they say they don't.
Well, they have a curriculum. I mean, the word proselytize is pejorative, so no one proselytizes. They proselytize, and we just tell children about this. But the curriculum is designed to promote and to instill the truth of this religion.
Right, and which is why I think it's called instruction and not education.
Yeah, the law is very clear, actually.
Mm-hmm. The law actually says it has to be instruction.
And it distinguishes between another form of education, which is called general religious education. And that is education about the traditions and history and culture that's sort of embodied and contained within religion. So you have instruction in beliefs. What should you believe? And you have instruction about religions. And as parents, we feel very strongly that part of being educated is knowing about religions. I mean, I have a beautiful view of St. Patrick's Cathedral. It'd be, a terrible ignorance to not know what that building was, who were the significant figures in its history. Our children should know these things. Yeah,
and religion is a very significant part of a lot of people's lives, and it's not just the Christian religion. We're a very multicultural country now. We have a lot of Buddhists here, for example. We have a lot of Hindu people live here. We have a lot of people of all different kinds, a lot of Muslim people, a lot of people of all kinds of different faiths live here.
We should be very proud of that.
And so it seems rather odd that schools should be kind of locked into being instructed, for the children to be instructed in one religion. One thing I want to get clear before we go on, what sort of ages are these children that are being instructed?
Well, prep starts age 5, and it runs through year 6. So these are 5 to 12-year-olds.
So this is getting them early.
Yeah, explicitly.
That's rather disturbing. And there have been attempts in other jurisdictions, up in New South Wales, for example, to have ethics classes taught instead.
The parents in New South Wales have taken a very different, and I think unsatisfactory approach. And instead of trying to call this what it is and identify the problem that's created by it, which is segregation, which is isolating children, labeling them. They've said, well, for the children who don't want to take this, we don't want to have nothing to do, so we'll put a curriculum in ethics. And what we're saying is very different than that. We're saying these children are being treated unacceptably. In other words, the government is violating the law, and we want this to stop.
It's all beginning to sound rather disturbing. Alan from Northcote says, when did it become instruction? When I went to primary in the 1970s, it was still called education. And James says, balance is paramount. The child can further their interests at university or in their own time. I've no problem with a general knowledge basis of religion at its basic level, but philosophy and ethics ought to be taught instead. And don't know, this is Tony in St Kilda, says, it's absolutely unacceptable that the Victorian government allows special religious instruction. This madness has to end. Seems like you've got a lot of support out there, Scott.
That's good to hear.
So what are you doing about it?
Well, Doug, we started out actually just by writing, very reasoned and thoughtful letters to the Minister of Education.
Oh, that always helps.
It didn't actually do. I just sort of want to clarify that what we've done is we've upped the ante. We got these sort of insulting circular arguments back, and we put together basically our argument for why we thought this was wrong, and we submitted it to a public interest law clearinghouse group, which passed it on to a law firm here, and they read our brief and they said that you're right, and they're bringing a case before VCAT in March. It's about 20 days away.
For those who don't know, that's the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal. Yes,
and basically we're arguing that the way the Minister of Education is interpreting the law, the policy that he is overseeing, it violates the Equal Opportunity Act. In other words, these children should not be segregated in school. This is a compulsory activity. They shouldn't have to opt out.
And of course, they're not given much to do when they are opted out, are they?
Well, the policy is completely designed to cater to the interests of this church organization.
Yeah, because Kez has just reminded me, she went to school in New South Wales. All these immigrants. She says, when I was in primary school in New South Wales, we had scripture. The kids who were of no religion were sent to the hall where they did nothing.
Yeah, and this is exactly what, school, I want to emphasize, we're talking about 5-year-old children, 6-year-old children.
Yeah.
This should be a big sandbox where they all play together.
Yeah, the fact that they're specifically excluded from being taught anything useful during that period is particularly vindictive, I think, by the sounds of it.
For most of these kids, this is the first time they experience discrimination on something called religion. For many of them, they have no clue. So as adults, we're doing the wrong thing by the kids.
Christina.
The other thing, Scott, do people actually send... I know a lot of friends that have sent their children specifically to state schools because they've got no religious affiliation. And now to have this brought in, when I went to school, and just back on that text message, religious education was at a Catholic school. It wasn't necessarily in the state school system. And now we've got it out there as well. So you really can't get away from it no matter where you decide to send your children.
Yeah, the church doesn't want to let the rabbits have holes.
And I suppose this is a nice little earner, too, for Access Ministries, isn't it? I mean, how much do they charge
Well,
for this service?
listen, you're exactly right, Doug. This is a valuable franchise. They have a $12 million budget.
Ow.
The Howard government created a funding mechanism, which is...
So that's federal money.
It's federal and state. So essentially, this is a state-funded church organization which has no secular, has no sort of social agendas. Like Salvos is sort of helping people that are down on their luck.
Yeah.
These are so, running hospitals are things that we can all say this is something, but this is about instructing children in religion. It's about religion. It's not about helping people.
So when does your case at VCAT come up?
March 1st.
And what do you think the outcome is going to be?
Doug, I honestly don't know what's going to happen. I do know that this is a watershed time, that these arguments have never been put in a way that they will have to be responded to in the way we are going to make them.
Have you spoken to Martin Dixon, the education minister, at all?
Look, we usually talk to him via a reporter or the media. He knows what we think. I've made entreaties and outreach to his staff. I've said, look, this isn't political for us. We are not political, and we would love to give the minister a way out, but we will continue to press our case.
Yeah, and just to make the point once more, you're not about taking religion out of schools. You're about it being there in an appropriate context and taught in an appropriate way.
So we're about education and learning about, really, you really can't make sense of human culture, of human society, or history without understanding the threads and the themes that have animated it. And let's face it, religion, it was our first attempt to grapple with things that we didn't understand. And for many people, it's still a central part of their lives.
Well, Rob Mitchell's messaged in to say that you ought to contact Clem Newton-Brown, the MP for Prahran, because he's had no problem in organising meetings with Education Minister Dixon for him in the past. So you might want to contact Clem.
Thanks.
And I can give you Clem's number if you want it.
Yeah.
I have that. Now, this is obviously going to run and run. I don't think this is something that's going to be over and done with in one case, because if you win, it'll be appealed, presumably, and it's going to go on for a while. How's your funding looking? Where are you getting your funding from?
Everything we've done to date has been donated by parents. We don't have...
how many members have you got at the moment, roughly?
1,000.
Wow.
That's not bad. That's not bad going. And you've got that big billboard up now as well.
Yep, that was donated.
And where is that?
It's in Bulleen.
Yeah, why particularly there?
It was near... Look, I had to put it somewhere.
Sure. I just wondered why that particular location. Is it near a big state school? Or?
The Parliament wasn't available. It is near one of the schools that is involved in the legal action, although I want to make it clear, this isn't about the schools. The principals, the teachers really don't have anything to do with this. And in fact, the union passed a resolution, which represents teachers, saying that this is, not something that they support at all.
No. Well, good luck with it.